The Democratic Republic of Congo, a land of breathtaking beauty, its verdant forests and soaring mountains hide a painful truth. For decades, eastern Congo has been ravaged by conflict, its people caught in a cycle of violence and displacement. Families huddle in makeshift camps, driven from their homes by fear. Children grow up too fast, their laughter silenced by the echoes of war. This is the story of the M23 rebellion, a complex and tragic chapter in Congo's troubled history. The conflict is etched onto the very landscape. Villages lie in ruins, silent testimonies to the brutality unleashed. Fields, once bursting with crops, now stand empty, abandoned in the rush for safety. The air, heavy with the smell of wood smoke and despair, carries whispers of atrocities committed and lives shattered. Yet, amidst the ruins, a flicker of hope persists. The Congolese people, known for their resilience and spirit, yearn for peace and a chance to rebuild their shattered lives. To understand the roots of the M23 rebellion, we must journey back in time. Belgian colonial rule, though seemingly distant, casts a long shadow over Congo's present. The Belgians, driven by greed and a thirst for control, sowed the seeds of division that continue to plague the nation.
They exploited existing ethnic differences, favoring some groups over others and creating a system of inequality that fueled resentment and mistrust. This policy of divide and rule had a devastating impact on the social fabric of Congolese society. The Tutsi minority, often perceived as being favored by the Belgians, became targets of suspicion and hostility.
After Congo gained independence in 1960, these tensions, left unaddressed, erupted into violence. The legacy of colonialism, with its emphasis on ethnic identity and its creation of a climate of mistrust, continues to haunt Congo, providing fertile ground for conflict to take root. The years following independence were marked by political turmoil and violence. Mobutu Sese Seko seized power in 1965, plunging Congo into decades of dictatorship. His regime, characterized by corruption and repression, further marginalized the Tutsi population. Many fled to neighboring countries, only to be drawn back into the conflict when a rebellion erupted in 1996.
In 2009, a glimmer of hope emerged with a peace agreement signed between the government and the National Congress for the Defense of the People, or CNDP, a Tutsi-dominated rebel group. The agreement promised integration of CNDP fighters into the National Army and political representation for the Tutsi community. However, these promises proved hollow. The agreement, poorly implemented and plagued by mistrust, collapsed, leading to the formation of the M23 movement in 2012.
The M23 movement emerged from the ashes of the failed 2009 peace agreement. Composed primarily of former CNDP fighters, they took up arms once more, driven by a profound sense of grievance and betrayal.
The M23 argues that the Congolese government failed to honor the terms of the agreement, leaving the Tutsi community vulnerable to continued violence and discrimination. They portray themselves as protectors of the Congolese Tutsi population, defending them against persecution by other armed groups, particularly the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, or FDLR.
The M23 claims that their fight is not for secession or power, but for survival, justice, and recognition. They demand political inclusion, security guarantees for Tutsi communities, and a genuine commitment to implementing the 2009 peace agreement. Section 5. Lives Uprooted, the Human Cost of Conflict. While the M23 presents its narrative, the human cost of the conflict remains undeniable. The conflict has uprooted the lives of millions of Congolese civilians.
Families have been torn apart, forced to flee their homes with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Villages lie empty, their inhabitants scattered across the countryside, seeking refuge in overcrowded camps.
The conflict has created a humanitarian crisis of staggering proportions. Children are particularly vulnerable, deprived of education and healthcare. Many have witnessed unspeakable horrors, their innocence stolen by the brutality of war.
The stories of these displaced civilians are heart-wrenching testaments to the devastating impact of the conflict. They speak of lost loved ones, shattered dreams, and an overwhelming desire for peace.
Section 6, a world watching the international response. The M23 rebellion has drawn international condemnation and sparked debate about the role of the international community in resolving the conflict. The United Nations and various governments have accused Rwanda of supporting the M23, a charge Rwanda vehemently denies. UN peacekeepers, tasked with protecting civilians and stabilizing the region, have struggled to contain the violence.
The international community has responded with a mix of diplomacy, sanctions, and military intervention. However, these efforts have been hampered by the complex regional dynamics and the involvement of multiple armed groups. The conflict in Eastern Congo is not simply a domestic issue. It is entangled with regional power struggles and economic interests, making a lasting solution elusive.
Section 7. The struggle for peace, obstacles and opportunities. The path to peace in Eastern Congo is fraught with obstacles. Deep-seated mistrust between the M23 and the Congolese government, coupled with the proliferation of armed groups and the involvement of external actors, complicates peace efforts.
The M23's demands for political inclusion and security guarantees for Tutsi communities are met with suspicion by the government, which views the group as a proxy for Rwanda. Despite these challenges, opportunities for peace do exist. Dialogue, however difficult, remains the only viable path forward. Building trust between the warring parties, addressing the root causes of the conflict, and ensuring the meaningful participation of all stakeholders, including women and civil society groups, are crucial steps towards a sustainable peace.
Section 8. Beyond the battlefield, the quest for justice and reconciliation. Achieving lasting peace in Eastern Congo requires more than just silencing the guns. It demands addressing the underlying issues that have fueled the conflict for decades. Justice for the victims of violence, many of whom have endured unimaginable suffering, is paramount.
This includes holding perpetrators accountable for their actions, providing reparations to survivors, and establishing mechanisms to prevent future atrocities. Equally important is the need for reconciliation. Healing the wounds of the past, fostering forgiveness, and rebuilding trust between communities torn apart by violence are essential for lasting peace. This requires a long-term commitment to dialogue, education, and promoting a culture of tolerance and understanding.
Section 9. An enduring spirit. Hope for the Congo. The story of the M23 rebellion is a tragic one, marked by violence, displacement, and the loss of innocent lives. Yet amidst the darkness, the resilience of the Congolese people shines through. Their unwavering spirit, their determination to rebuild their lives, and their unwavering belief in a better future offer a glimmer of hope. The road to peace will be long and arduous, but it is a journey that must be taken. By addressing the root causes of the conflict, pursuing justice and reconciliation, and empowering the Congolese people to shape their own destiny, we can help create a future where peace prevails and the echoes of war are replaced by the sounds of laughter and progress.